Those are live pictures from outside Parliament's precincts. We've been keeping an eye on the events there. Previously, Parliament voted 195 to 106 to pass the Finance Bill of 2024. We have Stephen Leto, who is in Parliament precincts. Stephen, we saw fire in Parliament. What else can you tell us?
Well, right now the protesters are outside the Parliament Road. These are the protesters who had gained access into Parliament and overran literally part of Parliament, taking or uprooting the flags that had been mounted on the Senate side. And outside Parliament, there were some people who appeared to have been shot dead. One of them is currently being loaded into ambulances that have just arrived outside Parliament. But first, before that, we've seen the flags that the protesters had taken from Parliament, now wrapping the body that they're loading into the ambulance and singing the national anthem before releasing the ambulance. As we speak right now, more ambulances continue to come on this side, but where we are standing right at the Parliament Road, at the far end, that is at the side of the Senate, we can see smoke billowing. That is where the protesters had burned down the police truck. Before now, police opened fire and several protesters appear to have been shot. And we are really not really sure what is happening on the other end, because it is extreme in terms of the engagement between police and the protesters. But from this end of Parliament, where the bodies are being loaded into the ambulances, we see police have exercised some sort of restraint on this side as protesters now march with the bodies along Parliament Road. But even on the other side of Parliament, that is affecting Woolworth, police are still with protesters who want again to gain and which is in their way to Parliament. We've seen them carrying
That is Stephen Leto explaining what was transpiring in and around Parliament. We did see a police truck on fire outside Parliament. We will seek to find out how far, if indeed, the protesters breached Parliament's precincts. Stephen, how far did the protesters get within Parliament's precincts, if indeed they breached?
Are also visible on this end. So that is what we can see outside here. But members of Parliament are marooned inside Parliament because they cannot get out. But some of them, we have seen vehicles taking the newly built tunnel that connects Parliament to the new Bunge Towers that is just adjacent across. Some of the members of Parliament who tried to cross the road met angry protesters who were shouting at them that Wasaliti over the finance bill that was passed a while ago in the National Assembly. But even on the side of the sky, we can see police. We can see, helicopter surveillance just around Parliament, and just assuming that this is not the end of the engagement to the police, because more protesters we see continue to surge towards the side of Parliament.
Then we also have Seth Olale, who is in Parliament. Seth, if you can hear me, where in Parliament are you and what are you? Who is in Parliament? Seth, if you can hear me, where in Parliament are you and what are you able to tell us? Seth Olale, can you hear me? Where are you within Parliament and what can you tell us? Sorry, it appears we cannot, Seth Olale cannot hear me, but we will continue to attempt to reach him. But earlier we had Stephen Leto tell us that protesters did indeed breach Parliament's precincts. And Seth Olale, can you hear me now? Seth Olale, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Go ahead, Seth Olale. What can you tell us? Where are you within Parliament?
I'm with over 60 members of Parliament who are basement 2 and basement 1 of Parliament buildings. The main building that hosts the the main chambers of the National Assembly and the Senate. Among those where I am include the leader of minority of the what I can confirm and this one now led to the Senate side rather. Right now there's an ambulance that is coming right in the basement area. Also, earlier on, we saw quite a number of MPs being overwhelmed. Some, unfortunately, like fainting or just collapsing in that particular stampede, because what happened immediately, Parliament building was invaded by not so sure if they were protesters or not, but after that particular invasion, what happened is that MPs started campaigning for safety. Some were going upstairs, others managed to go towards the basement in order to reach. And right now the situation is even getting worse. The number of police officers who are attempting just to come to rescue members of Parliament. We are still trapped here at basement 2 and basement 1. Following this particular place, we are being told that a section of Parliament building is already on fire. I'm yet to confirm, but according to a security officer who's just come to join us right now where we are at basement 2, he says that he can confirm that a section of buildings inside Parliament buildings have actually been set on fire. Right now we can see an ambulance that is now coming, and right now we can see that is the Speaker of the Senate, Amason Kingi, being evacuated in an ambulance under heavy security.
That was Seth Olale speaking to us from Parliament precincts. He is in the basement, and that explains the quality of the connection. But he did say he was in the company of members of Parliament who had been evacuated on account of fears for their safety. He did say he had received reports that a section of Parliament had been set ablaze, and he was saying something to do with the Senate Speaker, Amason Kingi, being evacuated in an ambulance. But he will provide further detail once we are able to reach him. Earlier we had from Stephen Leto. So we do have Stephen Leto and Seth Olale within Parliament's precincts, painting a picture of what has happened. We've seen protests across the country, not just in Nairobi. Nakuru, we saw protests. Kitengela, we saw protests. We saw protests again in Mombasa. In an escalation of the protests we saw on Thursday, unlike the peaceful protests we've witnessed so far, this time round there were stones, objects flying from either. There was a heavy security presence, but the protesters managed to make their way, as you heard there from Stephen Leto and Seth Olale, to within Parliament's precincts. We are now joined by Emmanuel To. You are outside Parliament. Has the situation calmed down? What are you witnessing?
Well, thank you very much. We are along Parliament Road, where the police are just engaging some of these protesters, and there are two bodies that are still lying on this Parliament Road within the CBD, just outside Parliament, and the ambulances from Red Cross and others have been picking some along City Hallway, and it seems the police have shot at few protesters who are here. Have counted at least 3 as I was walking towards this part of Parliament, and the demonstrators have also torched some of the vehicles that were being used by the police, and some of the water cannons were being used to put off some of the fires that had been put on during that stampede that was witnessed. I'm seeing the members of the police, including Adamson Bungei, who is also one of the senior officers in Nairobi County, is here at the scene, and some of those who are protesting are still wailing, just asking why the police had to shoot stamps straight to the head And it is a very ugly scene, and we are trying to just understand what is happening. But the demonstrators have been able to overrun the security protocol that was here, and also breaking the fence that is just the parliament fence. And some part of the parliament building has caught fire towards the side, housing some of the offices of those leaders of the house and some of the rooms where committee meetings are normally held. And so we're just monitoring the situation, but that is the situation as is right now. Police are still using tear gas to disperse some of the protesters who have come around here. I beg your pardon, I have to leave, but that's the latest we have from here. Back to you.
Thank you for that update, Emmanuel. So you can see there in those pictures that the police commander, Nairobi County, Adamson Bungei, is on site, and he is outside Parliament's precincts. We saw their protesters as well, and Emmanuel Cho has told us that they're asking why police had to fatally shoot the protesters. Leto tells us there are at least, I beg your pardon, Emmanuel Cho tells us that there are some who have been shot fatally and an unknown number outside Parliament. But he did say that part of Parliament's fence had been damaged, and that part of Parliament had caught fire. The side, he said, that houses offices of Parliament offices. So that is what we have from Emmanuel. So we've got an update so far from Stephen Leto.
I don't make you happy. All that time you would be complaining. I'll call you every day. Yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN Voice.
Claiming the expenditure that the government seems to, in their words, they're saying that the government should reduce the expenditure. They want the public finances managed properly by the government and those who are in charge. And they equally want accountability from their leaders. Remember, this coming on a day that we saw the Finance Bill 2024 reached the committee stage where we saw some of those amendments that were proposed by the government pass through. But of course, that final vote has not yet happened. It is yet to happen. All this is for the government to try and raise additional revenue of 346 billion shillings. They're saying this will help with running the country. But of course, those are live pictures you're seeing on the screen. This is what is happening here in Nairobi, the CBD Parliament buildings. Some protesters managed to enter the Parliament precincts, and of course, some chaos of some sort was witnessed. Guns have been, we've seen gunshots being witnessed. We've seen a few people being injured, others have been shot dead. And also we have seen the members of parliament try and run to Bunge Towers, running to safety through that particular tunnel that is connecting parliament buildings to Bunge Tower. Of course, we continue monitoring the situation, not just in Nairobi, but also in different parts of the country. We're equally monitoring the diaspora protests, the Kenyans who are in the diaspora, United Kingdom, USA. They're trying to, protest in solidarity with their fellow Kenyans. So this is the situation. So far, St. John's Ambulance has confirmed their number of deaths. When we last got that tally, it was 8 protesters who have been confirmed dead, several others injured. We have seen destruction of property in the CBD here in Nairobi. We've equally seen a police lorry being set on fire. We've seen Azimio allied members of parliament, say they're in the side of the people, they're with the people when it comes to the rejection of this Finance Bill 2024. So that is the situation on the ground. We're trying to get our reporters on the ground to give us an update on what exactly is happening at this particular moment. As you can see those shots. On what exactly is happening at this particular moment. As you can see those shots, it seems there's explosions, or is it fire that has been lit, different parts. This is courtesy of TV47. This is inside Parliament. And you can see the destruction that has happened there. Tables broken. As you can see, there are broken windows, broken furniture, destruction that has been,
the was that listening enough, or there's more listening that is needed? And that question then cannot be answered conclusively until after today, to see the reaction of what the Kenya Kwanza, the ruling party, really thinks of what has happened today and how they would like to address it.
All right, at this point, we can actually cross over to our colleague Fred Mutiriri, who is on the ground for us. Fred, let us know where you are at this point and what update can you give us? What's happening? We will connect to Fred Mutiriri as soon as we can, but he is on the ground along with Melita Oletenges, and also Zainab Ismail was at Parliament. We'll connect with one of them in just a moment, but just to bring you up to speed, what you're seeing on your screens again, the footage on the left is the scene outside a Parliament. About 30 minutes ago, it was a completely different situation, chaos and confrontation between protesters and also the police, as protesters managed to occupy Parliament. That was their mission today. They accomplished it. Unfortunately, there have been fatalities and injuries as well, and Parliament was occupied. Part of its satellite windows smashed, and destruction as well, as you can see there on your screens from inside Parliament. Outside Parliament at the moment, the scenes do seem much calmer, but clearly, James, the air is still very tense outside Parliament.
As you can see, there's unease. There is absolutely no sort of life going on inside Parliament. Usually, if you report in Parliament, these areas are usually very bubbly. This is areas where members of Parliament would be walking in. On the right side where the canteen would be, there would be so much action happening at this place. If you know, the famous horse trading, members of Parliament have to sit and discuss. It's usually a place that is jovial with life. The pictures that you're seeing now is nothing but. The pictures that you're seeing literally outside Parliament, on that one side is perhaps, you know, more protesters, and some, I believe, would be maybe members of Parliament, you know, also trying to make their way around to their vehicles, which are stuck inside the basement on that one side. But this aerial shot, we cannot make so much of what's happening on that side. But there's obviously...
James, I'll just cut you off for a moment. Apologies. We do now have Fred Mutiriri on the line with us. So let's get a sense of what is happening on the ground. Fred, where are you? We are currently seeing pictures from within and outside Parliament. Tell us where you are and what is happening.
Asante sana James, kwenye studio zetu hapa Nairobi. Mimi niko pande wa Uhuru Highway. Nimefika hapa Uhuru Highway, nimetembea kutoka ile barabara ya Parliament Road, nimeingia ya Harambee, kisha sasa nimesimama hapa kwenye Uhuru Highway, ambako kwa hivi sasa kile ambacho naona kando yangu ni jumba lile la jumba la wanabunge ambako wana maafisi zao, na vile vile upande mwingine ninaona bunge la kitaifa. Upande huu wangu wa kulia nikiangalia ni kwamba kumejaa maafisa wa polisi ambao wanajaribu kuwatawanya wale ambao wamekuwa wakiandamana siku ya leo. Wamejaribu kufika hapa kwenye majengo haya ya bunge. Hapo awali wakaingia ndani ya jengo la bunge. Wameweza hata kula chakula kule bungeni. Zaidi ya hapo wamepata baadhi ya wabunge, lakini hawakuwajeruhi au kuwapiga. Wamewasindikiza hadi nje. Hata hivyo wanajeshi wa KDF nimewaona na macho yangu mimi mwenyewe. Wanajeshi wa KDF wameweza kuingia hapa kwenye bunge la kitaifa na wakaweza kuwatawanya wale ambao walikuwa wameingia ndani na wakatoka nje. Lakini kuhuzunisha zaidi ni kwamba kuna wale ambao wamepigwa risasi. Kwa macho yangu nimeona watu ambao ni zaidi ya 5 hivi ambao wamebebwa na ambulensi na kuondoka hapa kwenye majengo haya ya bunge. Kwa sasa vijana wamekita kambi ndani ya Uhuru Park, wameingia kule ndani. Huko ndiko wanakimbizana na maafisa wa polisi hapa kule. Hapa nje ya bunge wamejaribu kuingia, wakapigwa risasi. Wamepiga risasi wabunge, sasa wanatoka nje. Kile ambacho naona hapa kwenye Harambee Avenue, nimeona wabunge wengi sana wametoka nje na wabunge wanatolewa. Wacha nikaribie sababu ninaona kana kwamba wabunge huenda wanaenda kutolewa. Ambulance zimefika hapa kwa wingi, zile za Kenya Red Cross zimeingia kwa wingi. Nikihesabu hapa karibia bunge naona zaidi ya ambulance 15 hivi ambazo ziko hapa na zinajaribu kuwaokoa wale ambao wamepigwa risasi, watu kadhaa ambao wamepigwa risasi hapa ndani ya majengo ya bunge. Ninaelezwa kwamba wabunge wamepitia chochoro za chini ambapo wabunge walikuwa wametengeneza hapa awali. Kuna njia ambayo ni mbadala na bunge la kitaifa, wamepitia chini na kuweza kutoroka baadhi yao. Kuna wale ambao tunaelezwa bado wako ndani ya afisi zao wamejifungia. Kuna wale lakini wote wametoka ndani ya majengo ya bunge. Taswira ambayo naitazama kwa hivi sasa ni kwamba maafisa ni wengi sana ambao wametumwa hapa. Inaonekana maafisa zaidi wametumwa, wale wa kukabiliana na ghasia, wale polisi wa kawaida, na zaidi ya hapo kwa hivi sasa mbele yangu naona maafisa wa jeshi. Naona maafisa kadhaa wa jeshi. Vile vile naona wabunge wanaondoka ndani ya majengo ya bunge. Maafisa wale wa Special Forces naona wameingia. Wameingia kwa hivi sasa. Magari nimehesabu kama magari 5. Maafisa wale wa Special Forces wakiwa na magari ambayo hayana nambari za usajili wameingia ndani ya majengo ya bunge. Nafikiria wanajaribu kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna mtu ambaye ataingia. Ndio wameingia ndani ya bunge, magari ambayo hayana namba za usajili, magari ambayo yamekuja na maafisa wale wa Special Forces. Kwa hivi sasa ndio wameingia bunge. Magari nikihesabu 1, 2, 3, magari 7 hivi wameingia na hawa maafisa ambao wanakuja kuhakikisha kwamba wanalinda bunge la kitaifa. Kwa sasa nikueleze kwamba nirejee hapa kwenye barabara ya Uhuru Highway. Barabara hii ya Uhuru Highway, maafisa wa polisi wameweza kuwatawanya wale ambao ni waandamanaji ambao walikuwa wamefika hapa na kuingia kwenye bunge la kitaifa. Wameweza kuondoa zile wameanza kuingia kwenye lango, wakaangusha lango lenyewe na wakaweza kuingia ndani. Kwa hivi sasa maafisa wa polisi ni wengi kupita kiasi, na nafikiria kwamba wameongezwa kupita kiasi. Kwa hivi sasa naona wale ambao ni waandamanaji wako kama kilomita 1 hivi kutoka mahali ambapo nimesimama. Niko mbadala tu na bunge la kitaifa. Naona wale ambao ni waandamanaji wametawanywa, wako kule juu zaidi kwenye hoteli ambayo iko kule karibia na bunge, lakini ni mbali, kwa umbali kidogo. Kwa upande huu mwingine wa Haile Selassie hapa chini, maafisa wa polisi kwa hivi sasa wanakabiliana na wale maandamanaji wamejaa kwenye hii barabara ya Uhuru Highway. Ikiwa una swali James Matu, mkiwa kwenye studio zetu za NTV, hebu niulizeni, nitaweza kuelezea.
Mutiriri, shukran sana kwa hiyo ripoti yako. Swali ni mali upo, umeona kweli kama kuna wabunge yoyote umeweza kuwaona? Tuna habari kwamba wabunge hapo awali walijaribu kuepuka na kwenda kwa bunge towers.
Naam, ni kweli ni kwamba kuna wabunge ambao wote nafikiria wameweza kuondoka kwenye bunge la kitaifa pindi tu walipopiga kura. Waliondoka kwenye bunge la kitaifa. Kuna wale ambao walikuwa wamebaki ndani wakafungiwa kwenye malango na maafisa wa polisi wasiweze kuondoka, na wale waandamanaji ambao walikuwa wanajaribu kuingia wazuiliwe nje. Lakini wabunge wote naelezwa kwamba wamepitia lango la chini. Kuna barabara ambayo walitengeneza hapo awali. Ukikumbuka kama ulikuwa unapitia barabara hii ya Harambee Avenue, utakumbuka vizuri sana ni kwamba kuna njia ambayo ilikuwa inatengenezwa huku chini, wakaweza kuingia kwenye hii tawa ambapo wako. Hata hivyo naelezwa kwamba baadhi ya wabunge wameondoka. Hatujui ni kweli kama wako hapa ndani au wameondoka kwa ukweli, lakini naona wale maafisa wa Special Forces ni kana kwamba wamekuja kuhakikisha kwamba wabunge wanaondoka na wanasafirishwa, sababu wameingia na magari ambayo kidogo yanaonekana ni ya kuhakikisha wanaondoka hapa wakiwa salama salimini. Hata hivyo naona wafanyakazi wa bunge ile bunge towers wako bado hapa, na waona wamesimama tu nje ya milango wakitazama, wakijiuliza iwapo hawa vijana wataweza kuingia hadi hapa ndani. Na waona wamesimama kule juu ya orofa, wengine wako hapa chini, ila wanasubiria tu kuona kama maafisa wa polisi wataweza kuwatawanya. Kwa hivi sasa ni kama kwamba wamefungiwa huku ndani, hawawezi kuondoka, sababu malango yote ya bunge ambayo watu wanaweza kuingilia, haswa hapa kwenye barabara hii ya Harambee, imefungwa hapa nje, na hii ya kuingia kwenye bunge towers imefungwa. Kwa hivi sasa na waona magari ambayo yanapita mbele yangu kwa hivi sasa Ningetamani sana kuona kamera nikuonyeshe. Hizi ni gari za Kenya Red Cross, msalaba mwekundu. Magari naona maafisa manesi ambao wanakuja kuwasaidia wale ambao wamepigwa risasi ambazo zinaondoka kwenda, na hisi kwamba kuna watu ambao wamepigwa, wakisema kuna madai kwamba kuna watu wamepigwa risasi kule karibu na barabara ya University Way, na ndipo hao Kenya Red Cross wanajaribu kuondoka wakienda kuwasaidia. Kuna wengine ambao wameteremka barabara ya Haile Selassie, nafikiria sababu kulikuwa na milio ya risasi hapo awali, nafikiria wanaenda kuwasaidia Spurs.
Well, pictures on your screen there showing inside Parliament, you know, the costs and the breakages and what has been left after protesters really breached the Parliament building there on the left side of your screen. On the right side of the screen is sort of like running battles, the police trying to make a way there while the protesters are still holding up, you know, their line but moving back. Still some running battles, police there. There's a police vehicle thing trying to exit that scene around Parliament. Our reporter there, Mutiriri, bringing us a sense of what has happened in the last hour or so, watching the breaching of the parliament fence with what has happened inside. And it just informs us in the last minutes that the special forces and members of the military had to get involved to secure the members of parliament for them to make way outside Bunge Towers, Smriti.
Right, and of course they did manage to escape to Bunge Towers through that underground channel as those protesters entered Parliament building. Melita Oletenges is still on the ground. Melita, where are you? And we've just spoken with Fred Mutiriri, and we've also been seeing pictures from within and outside Parliament. When I last spoke to you this afternoon, the scenes were absolutely chaotic outside Parliament. At some point, it seemed like things were simmering down, but what is happening where you are?
Well, Smriti, what you're looking at is the aftermath of what has been a siege in the Parliament compounds and Parliament buildings at large for the past about an hour. And the destruction we have witnessed here is, as you can see there, destruction from gates, fences that have been brought down by protesters. This is actually where they managed to get access to the Parliament compound from. Now, just to put you in a picture, this is just the entrance to the Jomo Kenyatta Mausoleum, which is just a few meters from what used to be hotel. Now, they managed to actually jump over the fence from the road outside Intercontinental Hotel, and then they entered the Parliament compound. And what you can see there is the remains of what has been the siege. The fences have been brought down, but we can see special forces are actually keeping tight in the compound. We have been trying to get access, but we have been denied. But be as it may, we'll show you the destruction out here. Those are the gates that I was talking about earlier when we spoke on phone. And the gates and the fences. But if Fidel can just show you on my right side is the aftermath of that truck that was raised down by protesters. Now, this is to show you, Smitty, that protesters had advanced beyond this point. When you see a lorry has been raised down, it means they had actually swept through this area, and they were about Parliament, and then now they jumped over the fence and accessed the Parliament buildings. Now, the destruction that we have witnessed here. This is also a gate, as you can see, a very modern gate here that is used by members of Parliament. Windows have also been shattered, windows, and a certain wing of Parliament has been completely razed down by protesters. If Fidel can just zoom in, you can see yonder, just some few meters from where we are standing. That is a wing of Parliament buildings that has been razed down by protesters, and the inferno has been put out just a few minutes ago, as well as the inferno that was still raising the truck that we've just shown you. As you can see those pictures, you'll notice that there are police officers in civilian, and we have special forces who are donning a brown and blue fatigue, military fatigue, mainly worn by the special forces. We can see also a helicopter is hovering above us here in Parliament buildings. Now, inside Parliament, if I which we will just show you in a few minutes to come, is that the protesters gained access to the Senate chambers just moments after they brought down the national flags outside the gate that leads to Parliament. They brought down all those flags that you see usually hoisted there. Fidel just showing you that picture. You can see that those poles usually have national flags hoisted, but no flag there now because protesters swept through that section of Parliament and brought down those flags and entered the chambers, that is the Senate, where we are reliably informed by my colleague Zainab Ismail, who's inside the chambers, that they have actually destroyed much of the equipment there, including tablets and also material that they could put their hands on. They have been able to carry television sets. We saw a number of them carrying them away. And they entered, and then for about 20 minutes or so, they were inside causing mayhem and havoc. Remember, all this is to oppose the Finance Bill 2024, which they have termed as very punitive, and they say the government is oppressing them further, even when they feel their backs are against the wall. So those are scenes. That is the aftermath. As I said, we shall be going inside Parliament in 2 minutes, but just to show you the situation here is that now the protesters have retreated a bit and the police are pressing them even further towards town, and that is what has been happening. We have had live ammunition consistently. Even when it stopped, it only stopped for a few minutes, but the police would then continue. And a few moments ago, rather, I've seen special forces stepping out of Parliament. We'll restrict ourselves from that side. Fidel, if we can just go back this way, just to paint a picture of Parliament Road. Now, walk with me. This is Parliament Road. As you can see, debris here from barricades that are used to mark footpaths in different parts of the city. A litter bin here, a litter bin here, and you can see this is the pole of City Hall Way. Also here, a number of barricades are just lying down here. Parliament Road is dotted with havoc, and if I may say, now police officers have stand down because this is the water cannon. They are not using that anymore. Smriti, this is where protesters were gunned down as they marched towards Parliament before other protesters gained access from the other side. The bodies have now been removed. We counted about 4 bodies lying here on Parliament Road, and police officers are still, staying here, staying put to ensure that the protesters don't go back. You can see someone there has been injured, a police officer also trying to get medical attention from medics. Now, this is what the message has been from protesters of the Occupy Parliament. And you can see there, what do you call this? This is like boards. They have built a monument of sorts just opposing the Finance Bill 2024. And the messages are clearly written there. Total shutdown, Occupy Parliament. Police officers are trying to carry this away. As you can see there, just trying to push the whole thing aside. This is where we are at with this coverage, Smriti. There has been lots of activity following the aftermath of that access by protesters into Parliament buildings. And when they accessed Parliament buildings, Smriti, we could actually see from the outside, we could see workers or other staff who work in Parliament, they were rather shaken by what was happening. Some of them were running for their lives. Some of them just stood put, just looking in awe of what was happening, because this seemed like wouldn't happen, but this has actually happened. And from reports on the ground, including inside the chambers, is that the protesters have not left anything unturned. We are making our way towards the Parliament entrance, hoping that we will get inside. But as you can see now, this there has been a sort of calm that has been restored on this part. But earlier on, it was havoc, and protesters were actually walking down this road from Parliament. And earlier on, actually, we witnessed the protesters also escorting, I think, nominated Senator Bishop Koskei from Baringo, and they were actually escorting him, I think, from the chambers, walking towards the Parliament canteen, but unfortunately they were stopped in their tracks there, and the MP actually had to go inside by himself. So you can see water cannons are parked by the roadside here on Parliament Road, and police officers who were trying to resist the protesters from different sides of this Parliament buildings have actually stood down. There's a bit relaxation here from the pictures you were looking at. We are walking towards Parliament, the entrance to Parliament. So stay with us as we hope to show you the pictures inside and the aftermath after that raid by protesters inside Parliament. Now, Smitty, as I reported earlier, we had protesters walking up to us with rounds of ammunition that were cartridges that had been fired by police officers. And as I have mentioned, we have witnessed bodies outside Parliament, that is on Parliament Road, that have been taken away by police officers and ambulance. Now, we'll try to see whether we can access the building now. We have been trying to access. This is what we've faced for a couple of times now. We're just trying to show you what is happening inside Parliament buildings. But as you can see, the gates here are actually being locked by the security apparatus here. But this is what we have been trying for the last couple of minutes, last couple of moments that we've been trying to come here. But let's just go to the other side together with my camera person, Fidel. Now, there were vehicles that were earlier parked outside on this parking, but now they were moved very fast inside the parking that is at the basement of Parliament. Now, this is what we are looking at from this part, but we are keen to see whether members of Parliament are still holed up inside or they are outside, because we understand that security has been bolstered immediately after we witnessed that fracas here. Then we witnessed some members of Parliament come out, but we also witnessed some members of Parliament run in to hide from the protesters who are angry with the finance bill, angry with the president, a generation that is saying our voice must be heard, a generation that is saying despite our age, despite how few we may be, our voice must be heard, and a generation that has also put other generations before that to task, who have come out now to voice also their concerns in regards to mistreatment of the protesters by police officers. Now, Smitty, as we try to gain access to Parliament, please allow me to take it back to you, hand it back to you in studio for a bit as we catch a breath, Smitty.
Well, that's from Parliament, giving us a sense of what's happening a good picture of the breakages and the breaches that has happened on the fence of Parliament and right inside Parliament. We've seen police vehicles that have been mobilized, halfly torched right outside Parliament. On the other side, we have seen, as you can see, medics there trying really to help those who were injured. Right in the precinct of just around Parliament. A lot of action there of medics really trying to help those who've been injured. A gentleman there is lying, on his back. Medic trying to really to ascertain and assess how he can be helped and trying to diagnose where really he has been injured. A lot has happened this afternoon, right from 1300 hours, where protesters overwhelmed the police, inside the CBD and managed around 1500 to breach Parliament, where they have gone and attempted to occupy Parliament, if you like. That appears to have been done, cases, at least dealing with one case of one person that has been confirmed killed by the Kenya Human Rights Commission, several others injured. Those numbers will be confirmed, and our team on the ground, plus all the agencies, will be able to give you a true cost of numbers of what has happened today. But something has changed today. As you can see from the shots on your screen right now, that protesters on that side of Parliament appear still to be engaging with the police, a handful, if you like, appear still to be engaging the police on the other side. On one side, on the other side of your screen, things are a bit calm, but that, doesn't tell the true picture and the whole picture of what has happened throughout the day. There have been injuries, there has been a reported death, and there's been a breaching of Parliament, unprecedented, on this June 25th, 2024. All this started on the question of rejecting the Finance Bill 2024, and that has brought us here, really, where, the section of the public started organizing and agonizing over this question of Finance Bill 2024. And the question had been how the political class and the Kenya Kwanza administration would take the responses. It has gotten here. We do, from this afternoon also inside Parliament, Parliament did pass through the committee stage, the final stage of the bill, Finance 2024, which now will go to the final reading to be assented by the President, passed early this afternoon, just right before the protesters managed to breach Parliament. Pictures on your screen there showing you the protests and on one end who was still a pocket of it, if you like, trying to still engage police. On the left side of your screen, inside the Holy Family Basilica, is where that had been one of the places where the medics, have been attending to those injured. The numbers have been many, they've been numerous, they've been dozens who've been injured. We're getting reports all through different spots where the medics, had planted their tents, of many who were injured. We've seen right on our screens, many protesters who were not only injured, getting medical help, getting medical attention live on television. Unprecedented day. What a day to take in. Is still 10 minutes past 4. One would imagine that it's getting late because a lot has happened between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. That would need to be taken stock of. But our reporters on the ground, Melita Oletenges, Frederick Mutiriri on one hand, and the rest have been keeping us up to speed and up to date, giving us details, letting us know the scenarios, painting a picture of us for us on the happenings in and around the CBD, the running battles that started arguably like 8 in the morning, and up to now, really, counting the cost of what has happened right outside, accident emergency here. As we see more protesters, being taken in to get more medical attention.
And our reporter Helen Aura is at the Kenyatta National Hospital. She can join us now. Helen, what are you witnessing? We are aware that there have been a significant number of injuries and also some fatalities today. All right, we'll connect with Helen in a moment, but what you're seeing on the left of your screen is City Hall, and a fire is currently erupting within City Hall. We'll get more information as we can. That is the office of the governor of the county of Nairobi. Some youth there seated outside City Hall, but now making their way away with the furniture, it appears, carrying those chairs. And on the left window, you can see that the fire has already caused some significant damage there, and the fire is still ablaze on the ground floor, and a police vehicle has just arrived to tend to this situation. So some seriously chaotic scenes in the county of Nairobi, particularly in the central business district.
Absolutely. Not ideal, but the police there, the powers there is trying to use its water canister there to put off the fire. That is at this is at the county office, the Nairobi, where the governor of Nairobi actually does sit. We're not we don't know the source of the fire and what caused this fire, but we've seen part of the protest once the protesters breached Parliament, made their way, going down into this section where the City Hall, which was formerly the office, City Hall, the office of the governor of Nairobi, presumably had been breached. We've just seen a protester there walking out with a furniture from the county office. Quite a chaotic day. Quite a day of destruction. We've seen these pictures that obviously tell us something about the state of affairs, the state of Kenya's democracy, the state of Kenya's governance. These pictures right on your screen now show us where we are. It all started with rejecting the Finance Bill 2024, and as one has correctly put in context, that should not have been a death sentence, shouldn't have been a question of destruction of Parliament or the county hall office. That will have to be taken to stock. Absolutely clear that something is broken, something has shifted, and something has changed in the Kenyan political sphere.
That's right, and the people have clearly spoken through their actions, James. Now we await to hear from the executive, which perhaps we will later this evening, but I am told now that we can listen in to Helen Aura, who is at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Helen will update us on what's happening.
That we have also been able to see on the streets from the police officers firing live rounds at these young people who actually were not even armed. Though in certain areas of CBD today we saw that the roads were blocked, but they managed to disperse the crowds well within their means. But James, we will be able to give you more information. Kenyatta National Hospital, as you can see, it's well staffed. The beds are all out here. Once a patient goes in, then they're able to assess the triage center to be able to assess also the critical.
Helen Naura there, reporting right outside the Kenyatta National Hospital. As you've seen, the medics ready outside the accident emergency to receive those injured from Nairobi to arrive there any minute now. As she has informed us, the doctors are ready, the beds are out to receive, to triage, and to quickly make that line moving. Presumably there's quite a heavy number of those injured coming right up by the preparations that we've seen right there on the screen. Earlier on, pictures of the county office of Nairobi, where it is on fire, parts of it at least, and the police there, trying to, douse off the last embers of that fire from, one of the offices. We'll have our eyes on the ground there to tell you the latest of what's happening, how that fire started, and if eventually it stops. On the other side, in Parliament, things appear to be calm now after protesters did breach Parliament like an hour ago, about an hour and 15 minutes ago, where that breach must have happened.
And that is, of course, not the only fire that we are witnessing today, James. Earlier, a police vehicle, a truck, was set alight just outside Parliament. And also we have seen cars being set alight in different parts of the country, as well as protesters voiced their displeasure at the situation with regard to the finance bill.
Yes, there's conversations, on what happens next. We do know that the president was in Naivasha earlier today, and we do understand that he arrived a few minutes ago back into the capital city. We are ears on the ground to hear if the head of state will address the nation or will send a statement. We are on the lookout for that. But there's quite, a conversation of what happens next, even as we see these last pictures of medics trying to get and help those who have been injured and transport them to Kenyatta National Hospital, among other efforts to sort of, help those who have been injured, save lives, as you can see the pictures on your screens right now.
Right, and if indeed we do hear from the president, what will be interesting is the content of his statement. We still have not heard from the executive or the Ministry of Interior regarding the deaths that were witnessed last week and the police brutality as well. Today we are aware that there have been fatalities, so we will wait and see whether or not the president will allude to those, and also what the way forward will be. But just look at that damage and destruction. If it's not a vehicle, it is a building. If it is not a building, it is furniture, and of course human life as well has been affected. As you keep saying, James, unprecedented. I think nobody could have imagined that we would be witnessing what we have witnessed today in Kenya. It is an historic day for democracy, for the people of Kenya, young and old. I mean, look at that. Even in the county of Mombasa, young people coming out to demonstrate. And then there you go on the right, a moment of utter emotion.
Right.
Which I'm sure a number of people are feeling across the country. It is a trying time for Kenyans at large, whether people are witnessing this on TV or whether they're hearing about it, whether they are on the ground themselves, or whether they are part of the protesters or part of the support team, as we're seeing. And this news, of course, has made it across the world. People are watching, all eyes on Kenya.
Absolutely, Smriti. There's something with what has happened today with the breaching of Parliament. Remember, this is a House of Representatives. It is the place for accountability. It is where members of Parliament go to make our laws. And in many ways, not just, it's a seat that gives the Kenyan people a voice. And there's something symbolic with what we've seen, the pictures we've seen of that house being destroyed. It's very symbolic. It's an analogy of people saying that they don't think that house has been serving them and does serve them. So there's a lot of reflection on those images. Over and above, the personal, injuries the deaths that have been reported, there is something that says the Kenyan democracy is in a problem. The Kenyan governance needs to recheck itself. That perhaps the people, those who are governed vis-a-vis those who are governing, are speaking from two different scripts. Yeah. Nothing demonstrates that than what we are seeing this on your screen right now. Across the country, 34 counties out of 47 have participated in this protest today. By and large, most has been peaceful. Nairobi has the one that has turned violent in certain parts, with deaths reported and injuries. That tells you something, and that's the taking stock that needs to happen fairly quickly after this, that something has to give. Someone has to sit down and converge the nation, the person with the power to converge the nation and call the nation to, to order, and say, either I've listened to you, what is being said is perhaps correct, or you might have misread it, and this is how I choose to move it forward. That would be something that would need to happen fairly soon, this evening if possible, right. And nothing further than that, would manage to sort of remove the sense of fear and in the air. Pictures right now of on your screen in Mombasa. Our reporter there earlier on told us it was peaceful. We can see it's still peaceful, as you can imagine, the protesters, they're also receiving news of what has happened in Nairobi, and you can see the sense of shock, in everyone's eyes, yeah. Of that news that has traveled, Smriti, as you say, not only just, internationally, but inside the country,
right,
of what this moment means.
Occupy Parliament has been achieved. It really has been an intense day, James. It is now approaching 4:30 in the afternoon.
It feels like midnight.
It does.
It does feel like midnight.
The energy is absolutely immense, and the determination to prove a point.
So I think two things. I think if we are to sort of look at, we've done this many times, me and you before, and if you look at, say the 2010 Constitution, which is perhaps one of, the most engaging moment that this country had in the voting of this sort of new Constitution, and sort of promised this new birth of a new country. Participating in that and covering that was something immense. You could see the energy, you could see the liveliness of people. The hope that people had, that we are doing something, we're bringing something fresh, something new, something for all of us. And that moment really couldn't have been captured, couldn't have been bottled. The elections afterwards, 2013, 2017, and even 2022, there are moments where the country converges and it does something to the space where everyone has energy, because it's a crossroads of sort, because people have to make a choice. We're going this way or that way. And those moments really cannot be captured, can't be bottled. You have to be there to experience it. This is another moment. Unfortunately, this moment, as you can see the pictures on your screen there, police perhaps lining up to engage those protesters on this side. As you can see, that line of blue wasn't there a few minutes ago, but now it has emerged. And the police, any minute now, that formation, I do recognize it, is for engaging protesters shortly.
Right, and still tear gas fills the air. Right, those are pictures from the county of Mombasa, but let's bring you back to Nairobi for a moment, because NTV's Zainab Ismail is on the ground. She was in Parliament when Parliament was under siege. Zainab, where are you at this point, and what are you able to tell us?
We are right inside Parliament, about 70 to 100 meters away from where we are. We can see protesters trying to push the police officers and trying to access Parliament. And I would like my colleague John Gatwiri just to give us an idea of the damage that was done earlier on when protesters actually managed to make their way inside Parliament. What you can see down there is a part of the fence that covers Parliament buildings on the Senate side down. And this is just part of the damage that we have witnessed inside Parliament. The sense of security here very heavy. We have seen members from the General Service Unit, including members of the Reke squad. And you can see just the amount of police officers and security officials right inside Parliament trying to guard it. I want to give you a picture of what has been happening here and show you exactly what transpired about an hour ago or so when members of Parliament, a majority of them, voted in the finance bill in the third reading. My colleague Jen Gaturi will just come with me as we give you a sense and an idea of that. Remember, this was the final vote that the members of Parliament had to make before that finance bill is taken to the President for approval and signing. If we can check on my right side, that's actually my left side, you can see a lot of tear gas smoke coming from that end. That is because the police officers are also trying to thwart protesters from approaching this area. They in fact trying to push back, and that has been quite a big concern for the security officials here in Bunge. And we're also making just our way inside Parliament. This is from the Senate side. If Gaturi can just give us an idea, that's the amount of damage that we've seen. A lot of broken glasses. Most of the windows and glasses that cover the building have been broken by the protesters who were throwing stones. And this is us making our way inside. And there you have it. This is the mess that has been left. That is the aftermath of what we saw earlier on when the protesters came in. This is the Senate side. A lot of broken glasses down there. We can also see that the poles that hold the national flags, they usually have the display in the Parliament building, smashed down against the floor. And what we're also seeing is most of the glasses broken. Jane, if we can just move inside Parliament. There you have it. These are usually the flags. This is a very secure area. So obviously when the protesters made their way inside Parliament, they created quite a mess inside this building. So I'm just walking with Jane as we try and get you to give you a better picture of the area now. So this building right now has been overrun by police officers as they're trying to secure it from all ends. We saw earlier on when protesters tried to access Parliament through the Uhuru Highway. However, that did not happen as there was a lot of tear gas canisters that were thrown their way. And what we saw also was some of the police officers who used live ammunition on protesters. We saw members of Parliament protesting, especially those with the Azimio coalition, saying that they did not expect the police to use live ammunition on protesters. But this is exactly how they made their way into Parliament. And so this is strictly a members-only dining area for the members of Parliament. And this is the damage that was left. You can see tables and chairs scattered all over, the plates broken. Flowers have also been scattered across the room. And we'll just walk in to the lunch service area as well. There's a lot of food on the ground as well, quite slippery, so we're going to move a bit slowly as we give you that picture. There you have it. This is where they made their way. So the protesters came inside here, and there's, as you can see, it was quite damaged. The tables, this is the dining area for members of Parliament, and in fact, members of Parliament, some of them were having lunch over here at that point when the protesters broke the fence and entered Parliament. A lot of food scattered on the floor. Jane, if you can just go straight forward. and show you what appears to be the aftermath of the Occupy Parliament protests, when a section of protesters made their way into Parliament. I'll take us through the other part of Parliament as we exit the members' dining area. So in almost every single part of this area of Parliament, the damage has already been done. Those are the pieces of broken windows scattered across the floor. You can see most of the area that is covering this members only lounge by the members of Parliament really damaged. And it's quite empty at this point. There really are no members of Parliament within Parliament right now. They made their way to County Hall when the protesters came in. So let me also give you a glimpse of how near the chambers look like. All right, so we allowed to give you an idea of how inside the chambers look like. However, we have pictures of what happened earlier on. Just a sense of what has happened. There's usually a TV mounted on the wall of the Parliament buildings right outside the chambers. It has been broken, and down is a lot of damage. We see flowers and papers, and security officials are asking us to just give them the privacy, so we'll not be giving you that picture right now exclusively. However, we do have those pictures, and Jane and I will be sharing those pictures later on our 9 p.m. bulletin. However, as we move towards, we're going to go around Parliament buildings through Senate and also show you the other part of the Parliament that has also been damaged. We saw a number of vehicles belonging to members of Parliament also stoned. So that is what happened. So let's just head this way. Allow me to just take us through that, and Jane will be giving us pictures, and I'll be trying to get a glimpse of what else I might have missed in trying to really assess how the situation looks like right now. Well, as the protesters were engaging police officers in running battles, we did see some of the protesters who were nursing gunshot wounds. In fact, we saw one of the protesters picked by an ambulance with a gunshot wound that was outside Parliament. And what we also saw was members of Parliament from the Azimio coalition seeking to see if they can speak to the protesters. However, that did not happen. They were calling out the police officers, saying that they should not use live ammunition in pushing back the protesters who are trying to get into Parliament. This is a fire also that was put on. I will try and verify exactly how the fire came up about, but this is what we came and found right after the protesters made their way outside Parliament. And we saw a couple of them, and they were saying, we have entered Parliament, we have occupied Parliament, and we want to speak to those leaders who voted in the Finance Bill 2024, and we just want them to understand where we came from. And of course, some of them were quite angry, and at some point they brought a body of a young man who had been shot dead by a police officer that that had used live ammunition, and of course they brought the body right outside the gates of Parliament, and they were seeking an audience with the members of Parliament. We saw Babu Owino, the member of Parliament, go outside Parliament. At some point, we were not allowed to enter or get out of Parliament, but he sort of tried and got outside Parliament by, going up above the fence, and he went outside. He spoke to the protesters, and they were sort of giving him an idea of the situation from their end. And so this is what is happening right now. There's still a lot of damage, but we'll be giving you the pictures of those. But let me take you to where the rest of the action is happening right now. Protesters are still pushing to come back in Parliament. So that is at the City Hall roundabout. Yes, that's the City Hall roundabout. So that is where the protesters are, and some of them are really pushing to come back inside Parliament. But police officers have been really trying to push them back, and I want us to get there as quickly as we can, so we can also just show you exactly what is happening.
NTV's Zainab Ismail there taking us through the damage and destruction at Parliament, reiterating what Melita Oletenges had shown us, an absolute mess in there as a result of Occupy Parliament. Now outside Parliament, a clear, bright day, no signs of tear gas in the skies at this point, James. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. It has indeed been a long day, and as you can imagine, people are possibly tired. Just a moment ago, we saw some policemen taking a break, having a seat on the benches there. As well, I suppose as the afternoon goes on, amongst all this damage, death and destruction. Earlier, we also saw some shots from the Kenyatta National Hospital.
Yes.
Helen Aura is on the ground there. She has been reporting that more casualties are being brought in, and a lot of them have suffered gunshot wounds. We are, of course, yet to get the final numbers of those who have been fatally shot and those who have been injured. But look at that. On the floor, you can see shoes, personal belongings, blood marking the ground.
This is the fence of Parliament. As Zainab was just walking us through, inside Parliament, all the, the broken property, inside where the members of Parliament have their lunches and do the famous horse trading. It's all been destroyed. The members of the public made way and breached Parliament. We could see the destruction that has been meted on Parliament. Pictures there just showing the calm now, the calm after the storm, because these pictures from elsewhere showing us also that protesters are sort of trying to leave and exit the CBD, if you like, and town. The station is still an unease calm. They're taking stock of what has happened, police regrouping, but obviously tired faces as well. This has been a whole day of engagement from 8 in the morning. These policemen and women, haven't seen any, but I assume they were there as well. They were mobilized and they were on location by 5 in the morning. So the members of security forces are also visibly tired from the whole day of engagement with protesters, which has to be said was largely peaceful, from the first two that we saw and today, until reports of goons who had infiltrated and stone throwing and muggings and that sort of criminal activity started and has culminated with getting us here, where we have all these pictures of violence, which has ended up with occupying Parliament, if you like.
Right, and I suppose the concerning thing is what to expect this evening in terms of what the streets of Nairobi and perhaps other cities are going to look like once darkness falls. Of course, the Interior Cabinet Secretary gave the directive that these protests must end by or at 6:30 p.m. this evening. The likelihood of that happening, I don't know, considering there have been fatalities. People have lost their lives. And on Thursday, of course, the demonstrations continued deep into the night. It's now 4:40, so there's about just under 2 hours to go for people to really stop and get home. And at least from the pictures that we're seeing, it appears that the demonstrations, at least in this part of town, have settled down.
Right.
Across other parts of the town, it may still be quite lively with chanting and demonstrations.
As you can see in Eldoret.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, to your point and to your cue,
yes.
That the county assembly, you know, of Eldoret seems to be under pressure there with protesters on the gate,
right,
trying to breach it.
And also, in fact, these pictures are of when protesters attacked Club Timber XO in Eldoret, which is linked allegedly to the Kapsaret MP Oscar Sudi. So there you go, as you can see there, the sign there,
Timber
XO. This is the moment when
it was breached.
Right, protesters charged and I believe attacked the club. So let's just have a look at this. There you go, police within the area and the protesters trying to gain access. Oh, they're stealing alcohol.
They've made away with the loot.
Right.
They're from Timber Exco, that club that is linked with Kapsaret MP Oscar Sudi. The other side of town in Nyeri, members of the public made away with in a supermarket owned by another member of parliament who voted yes and made away with goods of unknown amount. Pictures there are coming from Eldoret, where members of the public making their way into the club Timber XO and making their way with the drinks.
Yeah, they will indeed make merry tonight. Yeah, it has been an interesting day because what we have witnessed is Parliament being occupied, and also they really have, these protesters, proven their might. They have challenged the police force, who at one point, James, actually retracted.
Yes, we saw in the pictures earlier on of police after exhausting their tear gas canisters, you know, and not being able to use, you know, the water on the tankers. They were pretty much exposed and they retreated. And this point is when, you know, Parliament was breached because the police literally, and at that point, we have reports that police started using live ammunition. We have reports unconfirmed of snipers in top of buildings who were shooting, you know, protesters. That has to be confirmed. But it's at this point of weakness that the protesters, you know, after a whole day of engagement with the police, managed to take the goods. But here's what's happening. From these events, these protests from any other protest that we've covered is significantly different, and different for this reason, that other protests we've seen has been, you know, political, you know, mobilized, and we know the routes, we know how the protest would come out. There's always a portrait of the protester and from where they would come from. This has been largely a youth-led protest. The difference has been members of the society coming across from all sections of society, organizing themselves not under a political umbrella, but Kenyans who are concerned and engaged.
Something that we have not seen before.
Yes, and I think that has changed in that respect. That these protests have been largely inspired, if you like, by members of the public, not by political, you know, competition or political, you know, if you like, divide. And so the profile of what I think should happen after this, is, even as we take stock, is that Kenyans are engaged people, Kenyans are concerned, and the political class really has to find means and ways on how to engage in a much higher sense than what it has done before.
Right, and it is possible. What is to say that engaging with the young people is not possible? They ought to be listened to, and they can work together.
Absolutely. There's nothing that says that cannot happen. So it is the onus right now is in the political class to absolutely figure out what is being said by the Kenyan public. By and large, this has moved away from the finance bill. The question now is what our expenditure actually looks like. How do we fund our politics vis-a-vis how do we fund services, which is healthcare, which is education, which is roads, things that people like and it's for the people.
Right.
And I think that dichotomy then has to be very clear, because what has to come out of this process is that Kenyans are demanding more from those in office to give a bit more of care and attention to services that they give to the Kenyan people.
And
Kenyans
that's
have
not
seen,
a big ask.
It's not a big ask.
It's what is expected. I think that one of the key things is that, you know, it's okay to pay taxes. We all have to pay taxes. That is how governments operate. However, of course, the argument is that when the taxes are excessive, that is unacceptable. But also, at least let us see where money is going in the services. Let us see that, yes, we're paying taxes, but as a result, we are gaining services. And there on your screen now, look at what is happening there, or rather earlier. This was at City Hall, when you saw that City Hall was set alight. And again, it appears that there might be some attempts there to get into, there you go, that is attempts at breaking in to shops there in the CBD.
And this is a problem, Smriti, of you see people making away with furnitures and things like that. This is the problem, and I think, you know, it was questioned earlier on in other spaces that once the political class imagined that this protest can be infiltrated and include other elements, they lost the moral ground of them now calling out what has happened or what is happening.
Yeah.
We've seen, and in the last two protests, that businesses were not robbed. We didn't see even one glass being shattered.
Exactly.
We didn't see even one stone being thrown. I think that has to be said, because the pictures that we're seeing now seems to suggest that everything has gone, you know...
spiraled down.
Yes, but it has to be seen in the context that someone today has deliberately attempted to make these protests violent. And this is the effect of that. But in the bigger scheme of things, Kenyans have shown, youth-led, that it's possible to organize peaceful protests. It's possible to go and suggest what you want. And it's possible for you to sit down your political leadership. The pictures of your screen earlier on in one of the shops, obviously being ransacked. This gentleman obviously has made away with a suit, you know, from one of the shops. This is what we do not want to see. This is absolutely what we don't want to see.
Exactly, and exactly what you said, James. This is what we did not witness last Thursday and last Tuesday. A stark difference. So indeed, something has changed. Someone has ordered something, and it has come to pass. Yes.
This is NCBA Bank around on City Hall. There's quite, you know, a cost of what has happened, and trying to figure out, trying to come to terms with what has happened today, you know, from the businesses, but mostly from the Kenyans who participated today. One of the things that cannot be hidden, Smriti, is that there were possibly, if there were 100,000 people in the city today, there's possibly 100,000 cameras from the city today. If there were 500,000, there's 500 different viewpoints. And hopefully that what should happen is the Kenyans who came out today to populate social media of what they saw, so that we can collect and put a picture together of what happened today. And that would give us a good sense of the protest today.
Yeah, it has been a hugely eventful day. We've been covering it for you since it began early this morning. It is now approaching 5 o'clock in the evening. The protesters have been given an hour and a half. James, correct me, is it an hour and a half to end the protests or to go home?
To go home, yes. Okay. So by 6:30, protesters need to be home.
Because we're not seeing demonstrations as such on the ground at the moment,
yes.
At least from what we can see on our screens.
Yeah, I think the sense that I'm getting is from 3 p.m., you know, some sections of groups of protesters started dispersing perhaps, yeah. and going home. In the next hour or so, I think we'll see less and less of this. That's not to mean there would be a group or two that would still remain up to, you know, late at night. Yeah. But I think they are respecting those orders by and large. I think also by and large they respected the orders of, personally, I witnessed today just right outside the Nation Center of a gentleman who had picked a scrap metal, a road furniture, and tried to walk away with it. He was stopped and he was asked to take it back.
Wow.
So these incidents have happened a lot of people who tried to, you know, steal, spoil public property. They were stopped.
There have been attempts, right, but they've been stopped.
Yes, yeah. So I think that's the story that we should go with, story that I think most people should share, even as we contend with these pictures of violence and breaking, you know, of buildings and certain shops.
Yes, I'm feeling still so surprised that we have witnessed what we have witnessed today. As of the morning, firstly, I think the biggest surprise was that, excuse me, the demonstrations began as early as they did, which was around 8 a.m. Yeah. I don't think we've seen that before. No. Political protests have always started around midday or 12 p.m. thereabouts. So they have not given up. They have fought a good fight. They have overcome Parliament. They have challenged the police, who at one point were clearly defeated. And now we wait and see what the evening will bring. No doubt we will have reactions on the finance bill itself, which of course is the cause for these entire demonstrations. And this is week 2. Who knows what the rest of this week will bring. After today, will the plan by the protesters continue as set? You know, Wednesday they had a specific plan, Thursday as well, and Friday. We are yet to see, and of course we may likely hear from the president. This of course has attracted attention from the international quarters as well. We are perhaps expected to hear from some embassies.
Yes.
Also the business community, the church as well have been vocal recently, and we're probably going to hear and perhaps receive plenty of statements this evening.
It does appear so. You'll be surprised if that doesn't happen, because these events that we've seen, obviously unprecedented, never seen before, shocking if you like, and has shifted something in what has been the belief of what Kenya democracy, Kenya governance looks like, has really shifted perceptions of what has been largely thought about Kenyan youth, and something that dramatic happening suggests that we should change and we should get to hear from, you know, all these other interested parties, and we do expect in the next 30 or so minutes or 45 minutes to hear from international community and the embassies. There is a possibility also that the head of state, who landed an hour ago from Naivasha, to also give a statement or address the nation, if you like, because these events today have been unprecedented. The events today have been shocking, and the events today have shifted something. They've shifted something in the body politic of this republic. Those images, not only of Parliament being breached, the images of members of the public getting inside Parliament, in destruction of property, but also of police firing live ammunition to protesters right outside Parliament, the place of representatives. That absolutely is, you know, unprecedented.
You have been watching NTV the entire day. We certainly hope so anyway. As we approach 5 o'clock, a reminder that our coverage continues, but also keep watching us on ntvkenya.co.ke/live. That is on our website, and follow us on all our social media platforms. That is at NTV Kenya on Facebook and also on X and Instagram as well. We are, of course, seeing many young faces during these protests, something that has certainly caught Kenyans at large by surprise. But you were speaking about the fact that these protesters have pushed on, James. I mean, the sheer determination has, of course, been one thing. They have been full of energy. It has not ended. And it really goes to show how spirited they are and how determined they are to fight for their rights and achieve what they set out to achieve.
Right. There's that planning and the conversation that young people and all the groups together have been putting together. From last week, and you could see the organization, you could see the discipline, you know, from not just the messaging, the graphics that was being put out, and where they were sending out the message on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter. You could see the cohesiveness of the messaging and the organization. And you have to give it up to this new brand of Kenyans, if you like, on how to send out a message that the whole idea of them coming out was to suggest that there's something they're unhappy with. And that something was the Finance Bill 2024. It had all manner of provisions that, if passed as they were going to hurt on the creative economy. They were going to increasingly reduce the income of those who are working, you know, on various number of taxes and how they're getting taxes. But most important, I think we forget that there's this Finance Bill 2024, for me, one of the most insidious things that had been pointed out was giving the Kenya Revenue Authority this power to, you know, sort of have the ability to look at the back end of all your data on your M-Pesa records, and out of that figure out some tax that you need to pay.
I mean, some of those really were quite absurd.
So that has to be part of, I think, what the you know, sort of riled up and created this togetherness of a messaging, and I think that is very important as an important marker. Then what has happened then since then has been sort of like a formless organization of groups widely led by the youth and everyone else to join in to discuss what is wrong, I think, with the Kenyan public, the body politic of the Kenyan public, that the Kenya does not have a revenue collection problem. Kenya has an expenditure problem. You know, when you have offices of the executive, and has been pointed out, you know, the offices of the spouse of the executive, which are complete offices with, you know, director of communication, director of strategy.
Fully staffed.
Fully staffed, you know. And these are not constitutional offices. And it has been questioned that why are Kenyans forced to pay for those things?
Very valid questions and very valid points and concerns. I'll just jump in for a moment, James, because we have Helen Aura on the line. She is still at the Kenyatta National Hospital. That is, of course, where casualties have been received and treated. Helen, at this point, what update can you give us about the injuries and casualties?
All right, Smriti, we've been here for over 20 minutes and we have seen over close to 15 casualties being brought in by ambulances. Quite a sad and tragic scene. One of the ambulances came in, it had been stoned. The drivers, even the paramedics within the ambulance were quite traumatized as they got here. Most of the injuries that we are seeing also coming in here are soft tissue injuries. The critical injuries that we've been able to see are one young gentleman, to be precise, whose head was wrapped in a bandage and the bandage was full of blood. So it is yet to be established whether he was hit by a tear gas canister or whether grazed by a bullet, but the severity in which his head was bleeding was quite concerning, and he was wheeled into the accident and emergency center for a checkup. Quite a sad note, Smriti, for several families tonight. There has been an increase in the young people who have lost their lives. The numbers continue to rise. As we were standing here at the Accident and Emergency Center, the Kenyatta National Hospital, by the time the ambulance got here, one of the young gentlemen who was being brought here Unfortunately, he was no more. And one of the ways that indeed the paramedics, the doctors have to be on standby to confirm that. And once they do confirm that, now the body is indeed evacuated from the ambulance and covered from head to toe, so that now it's wheeled in to be able now to be treated. The other thing, Smriti, I can be able now to just inform you is once the injured from today's demonstration do come to the Accident and Emergency Center, they are given tags. The tags contain numbers. What those tags and numbers are supposed to do to help the hospital keep track so that they can be able to ascertain the number of people who have come in here today, the number of people who they have been attended to. Because one of the things that has also proved to be difficult, some of the demonstrators did not have their documentation with them. So if you do not have probably your ID, or maybe if you're in a critical state, you may not necessarily remember your name or your number. Those are the tags and the numbers which they will be able to identify you as it now. And still, as you can see, more ambulances are continuing to stream in. It's actually a very sad day in Kenya today, because the number of ambulances that are still continuing to come in, the young people who have been injured in today's demonstrations, are very triggering and quite alarming. Also to note that even Kenyans who are leaving work today, those who went to, who happened to go to work today and were just leaving town or just walking by the roadside, because also public transport has been hindered. Some of them also are caught up in the scuffle today, and they've been brought into the Kenyatta National Hospital, as it's the referral hospital which was assigned for majority of the casualties to be able to be brought in today. And Smriti, we're still here. I'll be able to keep you updated regarding the number of young people who have been able to, the number of young people who have died so far, unfortunately, and those also who are in critical care because of suffering from gunshot wounds. Back to you, studio.
Helen, thank you very much. That's NTV's Helen Aura coming to us live from the Kenyatta National Hospital. She has reported that there have been several casualties there, a number of injuries. Unfortunately, Helen has reported that someone that was wheeled in was no more. Lives have been lost. We are yet to get a confirmation on the number of fatalities, but we are certain that there have indeed been fatalities.
Yes.
Live bullets were fired outside Parliament at that moment this afternoon, a couple of hours ago, when a huge number of protesters gained access to Parliament Road and thereafter into Parliament. That was the moment when live bullets were fired and people were shot. Melita Oletenges witnessed one incident, and Helen now reporting on another death. Absolutely tragic. As much as many may believe and feel that this is a triumphant day for Kenya, in many ways it is, James, but it is also an absolutely tragic day when it comes to lives lost.
It is. We have a contingent of correspondents, reporters, photographers, videographers across the country, across the Republic, who have faithfully throughout the day brought to us images and updates from all the corners of the country today where protests,
including Eldoret, which is
Eldoret,
yeah, there.
yes. The pictures, I think, live on your screen now,
yeah.
This very later in the day. And we have been, and we have to trust what we've seen, where, there have been running battles and injuries that we've been able to see witnessed by our reporters on the ground, not just, here in Nairobi, but in places like in Eldoret as well. As we have said, characterize the day, it's been largely peaceful. Protesters largely conduct themselves, within the confines of the law. But in Nairobi, there were reports of infiltration by goons, and that has to be said has severely impacted how the day has gone, which has included, the breakages into certain businesses. We've seen violence. We've seen up to the firing of live ammunition, live bullets to protesters, especially around Parliament, who were at the forefront in Parliament.
There has, of course, been an impact on the cost of this. The economy has been hurt in many ways. today, and I suppose every day that the protests have been ongoing, with businesses closing or keeping shut altogether, some being ransacked and vandalized, as we witnessed today, although we did not witness much of that the last couple of days of demonstration, and then of course the cost of the damage and destruction. Absolutely. The day goes down in history as an important marker, Smriti, that something has changed quite, in a significant way. The action of protesters breaching what had been by Professor Kithure Kindiki, a security installation, Parliament being one of it, where he said that protesters would never be allowed to make it there, and eventually making it there. Something has changed quite huge and quite significantly. You continue to follow us on our page on www.ntvkenya.co.ke, right down there on your screen. We are live and we'll continue being live there as the protest goes on and the story where it goes. Us and our team of reporters across the country will continue to follow these events with you to bring you trusted sources of information and news. If you like, live on your screen is Eldoret, where there's a seeming standoff and has been building up throughout the day between protesters and police there. Earlier on, the protesters managed to get into Timber XO, which is a club which is closely associated with Kapsaret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi, and the protesters managed to get in and they made away with some valuable drinks, Smriti, that we saw. Right. That is indeed what happened there in Eldoret. And whilst the police are here on the ground in Kenya, just some news just in, which is unrelated but still linked to their counterparts. We have news in that the first contingent of the Kenyan police touchdown in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, has happened. The officers who are part of the UN-backed mission are in that Caribbean nation to restore order. These are the ones that more interesting time were flagged off yesterday evening from the administration police training unit in Embakasi by President William Ruto. 400, a specialized team that has arrived in Haiti. Kenya is expected to send about 2,500 members of the police throughout, to help in the situation of Haiti. Another controversial, stance. The president continues holding out that he's doing the right thing by being a brother's keeper, by sending Kenyan police into Haiti. There's been opposition, not just back at home, but, in other quarters, that Kenya has no business flying across the world in a country that we have no historical leanings with. They speak French, we do not. And to send, our men there appears to be sort of like a death trap. But, we wish those who've landed, our brothers, well. We wish them well. We hope that this assignment is successful for their sakes and for the sake of their families as well. Yeah, that's right. All right, just a reminder that you can continue watching us live on our digital platforms. That's ntvkenya.co.ke/live. Also on our social media platforms using the handle @NTVKenya, and on Twitter, or rather X, I beg your pardon, and also on Instagram and Facebook as well. We will continue streaming live there. So the scenes now in Nairobi, at least from what we are seeing, are I'm noticing, I feel that I can see more women there than I saw earlier today, James. I didn't actually see that many female police on the ground during the day, did you? No, so these are the administration police specialized unit from the training. They're called, I think, the one of the version of the RDUs, and they were have always been mobilized to come to the CBD and sort of like provide security. I don't think they were handling protesters today. They were, sort of holding, I think, maybe one of the significant government units, and I think this looks like the office
perhaps of the deputy president somewhere at the back, or Harambee House Annex, I believe it should be. They have always been there. I haven't seen any pictures, any videos of this particular unit handling protesters today, and that's interesting. But police had been mobilized. One could see from the whole day, from the morning, that Nairobi was a very key central positioning for the police, and the mobilization across Nairobi for the police was quite heavy earlier on in the day, and the engagement with protests had started earlier on in the day with tear gas canisters, going off as early as 8 in the morning, and up to almost 2 or 3 p.m. when they ran out of that ammunition. Such a long day for both protesters and the police, Muriti, for everyone involved.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can actually connect once again with our colleagues on the ground, perhaps Melita Olatenges or Fred Mutiriri, who can tell us what really is now happening on the ground. As where we stand, it looks rather quiet in that area. It may not be the case in other parts of the Central Business District, but it's a matter of waiting and watching. It still is a bright day, considering evening is drawing closer and closer, but it may well be a different story once darkness falls. And there on the left of the screen, clearly crowds are being dispersed there by police in Eldoret. Protesters are running in all directions as those police vehicles come out. I wonder if any shots are being fired there. Well, it's hard to say. We can't confirm.
Yeah. There's, I think,
but it looks like
there's
chaos.
some chaos, some pushback from the police from Eldoret. The image there on the left of your screen. If our camera person could just give us like a wide shot so that we can follow it to see what's happening. There was a standoff from early on in the afternoon in Eldoret, quite a bit actually, from the better part of the day, where protesters surrounded the police station, surrounded some installations and businesses of non-politicians there. And I think the police have mobilized themselves now, from what we can see on your screen, to attempt and disperse that crowd. And it looks quite successful from the images that you can see there from that long shot. The crowd that was building there has since disappeared. Just a few people there, as you can see on your screen, right there in Eldoret. Earlier on, police had mobilized to disperse that crowd. That once again is building up again, as the shot is zoomed in again. In Nairobi, nothing much happening other than perhaps starting to collect the costs. You can see vehicles trying to make their way around the debris, around the destruction, around smoldering, pieces of metal.
You can imagine that a lot of people who did come into work today are making an attempt to leave town, as earlier it must have been pretty difficult to get out of town, and now at least there is a little bit of movement as people weave their way out.
There's quite some work of cleaning up to be done this evening,
right,
and tomorrow morning. This is again, it has to be said, and repeating our point here, that the last two protests we didn't see this at all. It was fairly peaceful. It was incredibly and very well organized, and members of the public and protesters did conduct themselves in the confines of the law. Today, something has changed, and that something is that infiltration by the goons that happened early in the morning. And we have to take stock of that and what that means, in the body politic of this republic.
Most definitely. It is a difficult sight for many to see the country, parts of the country literally up in flames. Buildings have been set alight, vehicles have been set alight, there have been casualties. So a really trying and testing day for Kenya, for the government. I really do wonder what is on the mind of the president. He must have been witnessing a lot of the chaos. I'd really be curious, as would many Kenyans, to hear from him and really find out what he could be thinking. I mean, these are young men and women who have come out and stormed Parliament and succeeded.
Yes, in the report.
Yeah.
So if we just to run back to the talking points that the president had adopted from Sunday, which is sort of a climb down from what was suggested earlier on, that he's not only happy and proud of the Gen Zs, of the young people who had come out to give their views and express, their dissatisfaction with the Finance Bill 2024. And all the leaders of Kenya Kwanza since then, who had adopted quite a difficult stance, or a hard stance, if you like, or hardliners, from KJ, leader of Majority Kimani Ichung'wah, and the rest of it who had spoken, they adopted a different tune and said, well, we can now see and we're in agreement with the Gen Zs on what they've done, and we are listening to them and want to tell them that their cries have not gone unheard. So from that point of view, one would think that then the president will proceed from that point of view, that perhaps the listening that he had done wasn't, quite on the correct tempo and the measure.
Right.
Maybe it's a bit intense, and maybe the protesters representing the whole country need a bit much more, pushback from this finance bill. And the question, as we've spoken before, what options, according to what our lead story today on the Daily Nation was, what option that the president has?
Yeah.
One of it, one school of thought said it's a finance bill, so the president cannot do nothing but sign it. The next school of thought is, he's the president, this is a political process, and he of course can withdraw it. He of course can go back and say, look, we are not in a crisis. The government will still be funded. Let's forget this because it's caused, this, much brouhaha, if you like. But most importantly, doesn't end here. That these questions that have been raised during the last 2 weeks that are so fundamental and so important to how we govern ourselves. The question of how we fund ourselves. The question of how the executive still has more of the budget than anything else. Would you know, for instance, we give the National Intelligence Service 46 billion and the judiciary 22 billion. And someone asked, quite correctly, are we building a police state, or we are building, a republic that follows rule of law? So the judiciary cannot get half of a department in the executive of office.
Right.
And so those questions are fundamental and important on why we give healthcare X amount vis-a-vis what we put in security, for instance.
Right, and there are certainly big questions that will come after this. Again, I've got to interject because Zainab Ismail is now joining us live. Earlier when we spoke to Zainab, she was at Parliament. Zainab, do let us know where you are now and what update can you give us?
All right, so we are still right outside Parliament, and just a few seconds before we went live, there was a tear gas vehicle that passed. I think there was a tear gas that had been thrown. So forgive me if I'm tearing on air. It's because the tear gas is quite stinging and the eyes cannot really take it at this point. But still the situation remains a bit calm outside Parliament right now. If you can see, still a heavy contingent of police officers stationed here right outside Parliament. And even you can see the blockade of police officers along the roundabout of City Hall. You can see the water cannons there. Those are the vehicles that they're using to blockade the roads. There is no access whatsoever to anybody who is trying to make their way to Parliament on any of those roads. If we could just walk with my colleague Jed here just a little bit to see how it looks. So, suddenly this is just how it looks, but I can't give you an exact picture because I can barely open my eyes at this point. So Jen is just going to give you an overview, and then I'm going to come back in a few minutes once I wash my face to let you know where the protesters are right now and what is happening.
Zainab Ismail, apologies for that stinging from the tear gas. Thanks for an attempt to show us what it looks like outside Parliament. More from you in a moment. But James, based on what Zainab has said, the impact of tear gas is another fundamental point to consider. As much as people are willing to get out there and demonstrate and feel that, you know, tear gas is a small part of this, it does, of course, have some health impact.
Absolutely. One of the things that I think we need health professionals to help us with, and they have intimated in some, is that, you know, tear gas in some respects is categorized as a biological weapon because you inhale it, and its long-term effects, especially when, you know, in the last three protests, the last 3 days, if you like, not cumulatively, but the amount of tear gas that has been, released in the air has to have some effects in the body.
Right.
We all are not aware about those effects, the full effects of it, but it'll become very clear very soon that inhaling so much of this concentrated gas surely would do something into the overall health system. We do know about the air quality, and we worry a lot about air quality of where we are. Just smoke smoldering from factories. Imagine of tear gas. Now imagine if you have to do this again on Thursday,
Right.
and next week and the week after that.
It is, of course, harmful.
It is
There
harmful.
are some harmful, possibly dangerous effects on the body. Now, just what we're seeing, there's Zainab trying to perhaps calm her eyes. Yeah, she is. It
She's
really
in
does.
pain.
Yeah,
She's in pain. This is pretty much at the center of the concentrated air around that place.
Right.
Can be very important right now.
Yeah.
Zainab, earlier on, our colleague tried to talk to us, but she was unable to. You could hear her choking, and her eyes, literally on fire right now. We do hope that she gets better and continue talking to us. But that's the situation on the ground. Right outside Parliament, it's a bit much more calm right now. No sight of protest on the ground. Only the after effects of what has happened, or what happened earlier on in the day or in the afternoon, if you like. The counting cost of what has happened, the significance of it all, is something for us to to ponder about and to really characterize what has happened today right in front of our faces.
Yeah, and a reminder that lives have been lost. Parents, siblings, families are going to sleep devastated tonight. Indeed, knowing that their young people, their children or their sisters and brothers fought and went down as a result of fighting for their rights, fighting for democracy. But
Right. Yeah, this is earlier on in Mombasa. As we have said, earlier on, what started as a very peaceful march, a peaceful demonstration of what the public was unhappy about, a very peaceful sort of coming out of togetherness and connectedness. There was no tribe.
They were one.
They were one in that period, in that time, and I think that.
And as one, they won.
They won. Yes, and yeah. So I think this is some of the things that has to be considered of what has happened today. That the Kenyan democracy has to be seen from a good lens, where to take stock of what has happened. That it is possible for you to come out and express yourself peacefully, and for you to be listened. Article 1 of the Constitution that people can demonstrate and they can show. They can come out and picket. It's Article 37, I beg your pardon, of the Constitution. And we the people, if you like, from that 2010 Constitution, 14 years later, just coming to life of what the Kenyan people had given themselves, the ability to do this, to come out and showcase what you're angry about, to come out and say, well, still, the representatives must listen to us. Regardless of how it was voted, and we have to remember that this is regardless of how the MPs voted last week and how MPs voted even today. Earlier today in the committee stage of the committee of the whole house, if you like, to push the bill to its final process where it will get either to be assented by the president. Who can receive it anytime now.
Right, and a reminder that this chaos has not just been witnessed in the capital city, Nairobi. We have our reporters dotted across the country, bringing us up to speed on what has been happening there. What you're seeing on your screen are earlier pictures from inside and outside Parliament. At the bottom of your screen, that breaking news tag that houses and cars have been burnt in Eldoret. And on your right, a reminder that you can follow us on ntvkenya.co.ke/live. Also connect with us on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya. Just some brief updates coming to us from across the country from not so long ago, about perhaps half an hour ago. Our colleagues in Meru have said that protesters burn a police post in Mawa town. Protesters now battling police near Igembe South CDF offices. Several protesters injured. We have coming to us from Kwale County, a foreigner is harassed by police in Diani, Kwale County during anti-finance bill protests. A scuffle arose between police and angry protesters. The unidentified foreigner was carrying a placard. Also in Mombasa, protesters lit up a fire along the Digo Road as police shot to disperse angry protesters. And then we have an update also from Meru. One of the protesters was shot there. A police post was raised and the police were battling demonstrators near Igembe South. That happened at around 5 o'clock. And we also had the municipal court in Eldoret set ablaze. I think that might have been on Tuesday, however. And then police officers in Mumias town removed stones barricaded on Mumias Kakamega Road. So as you can see, really the protesters are still in full force and in several parts of the country. Molo MP Kuria Kimani's house was vandalized and properties of an unknown value looted by rowdy protesters. And in Muranga town, there was a fire due to the anti-finance bill demonstrations. The demonstrators blocked the main town road and set a newly done roundabout on fire. That is reported by our colleague Martin Mwara. Protesters flee from riot police in Kutus town, that's in Kirinyaga County. And an update from Molo. Rowdy protesters access Molo MP Kuria Kimani's residence, vandalized unknown amount of property. And of course, we showed you earlier several shops have been counting losses in the Central Business District here in Nairobi.
Right. Just an update from the Kenya Red Cross just 2 minutes ago says that our vehicles have been attacked, staff and volunteers injured. We have no contact or role in transporting persons other than the injured. The Kenya Red Cross continues that the rumors must stop. We can't provide life-saving interventions without access and safety for our staff and volunteers. It is crucial that we are granted access to continue our humanitarian efforts without hindrance. It is quite unfair that we are being accused of whisking members of parliament while our staff and volunteers put their lives in danger to provide critical medical care to those in need. That's from the Kenya Red Cross 3 minutes ago.
Okay, and there has been another statement, just searching for it, that was from the Amnesty International, I believe. So, as we mentioned, there will be plenty of statements coming through. Kenyatta National Hospital, of course, they have been receiving casualties from the demonstration with various kinds of injuries. They are currently dealing with treating those casualties, and also surgeries are ongoing. And
yeah, there's still running battles in Eldoret, at least. As of this, our team of reporters and videographers will send us pictures and videos live. We'll be sending that on your screens. There is, continued, for this late hour of the day, in some towns, at least in Embu town, where the Embu governor's office was under attack earlier in the day, and police had to push back. The video pictures on your screen right now are playback of what happened earlier in the day when protesters engaged the police in running battles. Earlier in the day, that continued, that characterized huge part of the day, but mostly it has to be said that most protesters handled themselves, in decorum, within the confines of the law, and it ended up at around 4 p.m. or 3 p.m., I beg your pardon, where protesters breached the gates and the fences of Parliament made inside, forcing members of Parliament to retreat into the Bunge Towers and eventually being whisked away by special forces into respective safety.
There you have on your screen images of the situation earlier. I think that must have been at 1 o'clock, as you can see from that clock, if indeed that clock is working in the CBD. But this was some of what transpired this morning. Let's just, if we can, listen in to some of these shots. Helen
Aura gives us an official numbers here on official numbers from KNH, 115 casualties. Right. Fatalities, 2 dead on arrival. Our reporter, Helen Aura, gives us official numbers now that we can go with, that Kenyatta National Hospital reported 115 casualties and fatalities, 2 dead on arrival.
Yeah, a difficult day, as we have witnessed this entire afternoon. Our colleagues were on duty this morning. Some really, unusual shots that we're seeing on our screens at the moment, James. We've never witnessed this before, coloured water, have we? And these slow-mo shots really capture the moments quite perfectly.
Yes. So 2 things first. I think this is new, the sort of the coloured water. Someone, if you live in this internet era, it looks like a gender reveal of sorts. The colored waters. So it's, the pink was supposed to signify a baby girl. Perhaps they need to bring blue water for, baby boys and that sort of thing. But there's, upgrade of police machinery. These vehicles are a lot. By my count, there are possibly 12 of these just around Parliament building during the day, all the way to City Hall. So there's obviously an upgrade of this, and these slow-mo pictures are really capturing what happened earlier in the day. At the heat of the moment, these protesters engaging the police as the police march forward.
And there we have the office of the governor of Nairobi set alight, whilst some individuals opt to nick some furniture on their way. There you go, chairs being carried away.
I wonder where you take this furniture. You're going to walk with the furniture.
Surely you'll be right.
I wonder what happens. But again, you have to think at this moment of crowd psychology.
Exactly.
There's no one doing things in the right mind. There's no leadership, and therefore everything and anything, just goes. And that's what you have to avoid in these times and moments where the crowd has no psychology, is just going forward and doing things and destroying things and taking things and building things. And you have to. I suppose this is what we will try to figure out. How do you avoid this from happening? That you don't infiltrate protests by bringing goons or making it a contest between certain group and certain other groups. And when that happens, there's a collective loss for everyone. And I think these are the images that you're showing. They're quite unfortunate images.
Because ultimately, this could have turned out very different if the pattern continued as it did on Tuesday and Thursday.
Yes.
as many have argued, even on Tuesday and Thursday, those protests were peaceful. There was no need for tear gas. There were moments where tear gas canisters were lobbed, when protesters were walking peacefully, chanting, just with a water bottle, as you said, and a mobile phone in their hand. But they did indeed take an ugly twist today. But the outcome may well have been very different, and lives did not have to be lost on this 25th day of June.
We are waiting for the day to, if you like, close down, waiting for statements that should come from different quarters. It is, the president arrived an hour and a half ago from an engagement in Naivasha. We are aware that he has been briefed about the happenings today, and our ears on the ground on whether we'll receive a statement from the House on the Hill, that State House, or a statement of sort from the head of state himself. If he chooses to address the nation, we'll be here to take you there and lead you there. We also are expecting, because this incident, as you've said throughout the afternoon, is not only unprecedented but quite strange images and that have come from Parliament being breached. So we do expect also international community to send in their statement, and once that happens and the contents therein, we'll be able to bring that to you as well. As of now, what we have informed you the whole day is that these protests have been going on the whole day in 47 counties. We did have our reporters across the country who had brought you all the updates, all the stories as and when it was happening, up to this moment, where we got to sort of like the last bastion, which was Eldoret, where there was sort of like the last acts of happening this afternoon, Smriti.
Yeah, it has been a challenging day. I mean, these tags across our screens, Eldoret House has been set alight, and also other buildings, and now we're seeing a supermarket has been looted in Nyeri. We saw destruction in the Central Business District as well here in town. So there has been a lot of damage, a lot of destruction, a lot of chaos, deaths as well. A very long day, as we keep saying. It began as early as 8 a.m. And it will be interesting to see how the evening unfolds. It's now just 6 minutes past 5, and the deadline for the protesters to go home or for the demonstrations to end has been given as 6:30 p.m. So just under 1 hour. We will wait and watch.
Absolutely, that's what we're waiting for. Questions on what has happened throughout the day, on the number of fatalities, the numbers of casualties. Our team is still trying to verify those numbers as and when we get confirmation from the agencies and authorities from our teams, we'll be able to relay with you. But we do know that there are casualties. We do know that these fatalities from today's protests in different places of the CBD today, the identity are not yet revealed. But when that happens, you'll be able to get that. These are pictures, outside Parliament. The gentleman there who has grabbed the Kenyan flag with its stand, attempting there to break this vehicle, presumably belonging to member of Parliament there, and finally managing to break it. You have to looking at these images to say that these are not the profile of the protesters that were there on Tuesday or earlier on in the day. You have to something change during the day.
Yeah.
As you can see, the police attempting to grab this protester,
there he goes.
barely misses it inside Parliament there, and he makes away, I don't know, with something on his hand.
Yeah, let's just remind our viewers that you can also catch us on our social media platforms using the handle @NTV Kenya. And you can also watch us on ntvkenya.co.ke/live. And also have a look at some of the articles on our nation.africa website. We have a live blog still running strong, and we also have other interesting articles. Anti-tax protesters enter parliament, police open fire. More analysis on that. Azimio drops all proposed changes to REUTERS Finance Bill 2024. That article delves deeper into how the opposition turned around on the finance bill. Anti-tax demos, state struggles to uphold Kenya's image. Indeed, we literally witnessed that today, the struggle to control the situation. Plus, Kenyan government hard-pressed to its image abroad in the face of widespread protests. And the other headline, MPs pass a finance bill 2024. National Assembly adopts finance bill clauses despite the boycott, the opposition boycott, I should say. So those are some angles to be looked at on the nation.africa website. James Smart, it is 40 minutes past 5 o'clock. We can at this point take a quick breather.
Absolutely needed.
Much needed. Do stay with us. There is more coming up on the other side of this break. You're watching NTV. Smriti Vidyarthi here and James Smart. We're coming to you live from the Nation Centre. We'll be back in a moment. All right, welcome back. We are still right here at the Nation Centre, bringing you up to speed with the latest ongoings regarding the demonstrations against the finance bill. Let us now cross over as we get a statement from the church leaders.
As our weapons towards people of different opinions, we permit them to do likewise. Intolerance slowly breeds anarchy and is the seed of violence. Do express yourselves without threatening the families or the lives of those who don't think like you. No one should take the law into their hands. 8. Condolences and prayers to affected families during the protests. We also send our condolences to the families of those who have lost their lives during the protests. We also offer our sympathy and prayers to the policeman who lost his hands due to an accident with a tear gas canister. Life is sacred and should be protected by all means. We appeal to IPOA to bring the police to book for the lives lost needlessly.
In conclusion, even in tempting times, we should always remember, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Matthew 5:9. As we seek justice for a fair tax regime, let us do so peacefully as citizens and as the government. We believe the President has the means and the will to bring back sanity to our nation by not signing the finance bill into law for better participation, taking into account the voices of many Kenyans. Kenyans, our dear young people, our country belongs to all of us. Your lives are important to us. We plead with you to remain peaceful. We invite all Kenyans to pray for our country and for God to guide us and guide our hearts to restore order and peace. This statement has been signed by me, Archbishop Maurice Mwate Makumba, the chairman of the conference and Archbishop of Kisumu. It has been signed as well by Archbishop Anthony Muheria of Nyeri and Apostolic Administrator of Embu, Archbishop Martin Kivuva of Mombasa, Archbishop Philip Anyolo of Nairobi, Right Reverend Joseph Mairura Okemwa of Kisii, Right Reverend Alfred Rotich of Kericho, Right Reverend Norman Kingo Wambua of Machakos, Right Reverend Peter Kiara of Marsabit, Right Reverend David Kamau Nganga, Auxiliary Bishop of Nairobi, Right Reverend Anthony Reri Mukobo, Bishop of Isiolo, Right Reverend Celestius Mugambi, Bishop of Meru, Right Reverend James Maria Wainaina, Bishop of Muranga, Right Reverend Paul Kariuki Njiru, Bishop of Wote, Right Reverend Dominic Mengich, Bishop of Eldoret, Right Reverend John Obala Owa, Bishop of Ngong, Right Reverend Joseph Mbatia, Bishop of Malindi, Right Reverend Mark Kadima, Bishop of Bunga, Badlago, Bishop of Malindi, Right Reverend Mark Kadima, Bishop of Bungoma, Right Reverend George Muthaka, Bishop of Garissa, Right Reverend John Binda, Bishop of Lodwar, Right Reverend Yorenimus Amusugut Joya, Bishop of Maralal, Right Reverend Henry Juma Odonya, Bishop of Kitale, Right Reverend Cleophas Oseso, Bishop of Nakuru, Right Reverend Simon Peter Kamamoe, Auxiliary Bishop of Nairobi, Right Reverend Wallace Nganga, Auxiliary Bishop of Nairobi, Right Reverend John Lelei, Auxiliary Bishop of Eldoret, and Monsignor John Njue, Apostolic Administrator, Military Ordinariate. We take this chance also to invite all our Kenyan Catholics that beginning this evening, we are beginning a novena, the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ, a prayer of 9 days, the whole country to pray for our country. The novena, the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bishop.
The Catholic bishops there making a statement, but now the Azimio leaders are making a statement. That's the opposition. Let's listen in.
But you can well understand why it's taking time for them to get here.
And members of parliament.
And members of parliament are still, actually some of them
are still in the house.
Are still in the house in their respective offices, keeping themselves safe. Therefore, this is a statement by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party.
Right, that signal has been lost. We were just about to listen in to the Azimio party's statement. No doubt they were going to address the situation that has taken place today, the demonstrations against the finance bill. We will try and reconnect to that. Before that, we listened in to the Catholic bishops. So I'm here once again with James Smart. James, now is, of course, when we're likely to start getting these statements and hearing from various parties, whether it is the political parties or the churches, as we've just heard, or hopefully the president at some point as well.
Yes, and to this point, also there's sort of like a breaking news, and Safaricom has sent a statement about a break. And the statement for you says, we have experienced an outage on 2 of undersea cables that deliver internet traffic in and out of the country. We have activated redundancies measures to minimize services interruptions and keep you connected as we await the full restoration of the cables. You may, however, experience reduced internet speeds and intermittency on various apps, including M-Pesa Super App and Safaricom app. Customers are advised to use USSD *334# for M-Pesa services or the SIM toolkit. That's from Safaricom confirming what has been a conversation the whole day of sort of delayed internet. But earlier on, we saw the archbishops, the groups of bishops giving their statement on the protest. We just lost signal there when Azimio la Umoja was about to give their statements. As we had predicted, Smriti, earlier on in the day, is that this part of the day will be characterized with, you know, statements, several statements of telling us what exactly has happened today, trying to, you know, capture the moment and essentially try to sort of push back and give this moment the response it deserves. That something has happened today, something quite significant has happened today, and that thing needs a response. We've seen from the Catholic bishops on their statement there, all of them signing that statement. We'll hear from the Azimio la Umoja once they're ready, and we'll play that back to you. We'll hear other statements coming, presumably also waiting from the international community, the embassies based in Kenya, once that comes through. And of course, we expect to hear from the government, the State House, on their part as well, Smriti.
That's right, and there is also a statement out by Amnesty International. Of course, there have been fatalities and casualties today. Amnesty International has put out a statement about that, and they have said that, I can just go through it, that 27 international organizations, this, I beg your pardon, was a statement out yesterday. That's on the 24th of June, and today was the 25th. I'm pretty sure I did see one today. I'll just try access it in a moment.
Right. We also are waiting, and once we're ready, give you a statement from Azimio Moja, but understand the statement from Right Honorable Raila Odinga as well, about today. And if I can just read a part of his statement. He says, Kenya cannot afford to kill its children because the children are asking for food, jobs, and a listening ear. Police must therefore immediately stop shooting innocent, peaceful, and unarmed protesting children who are asking for a guarantee of a better tomorrow from the state. A statement from Raila Odinga there, which reads in part that Kenya cannot afford to kill its children just because the children are asking for food, jobs, and a listening ear. Police must therefore immediately stop shooting innocent, peaceful, and unarmed protesting children who are asking for a guarantee for a better tomorrow from this state. He is saying, I'm calling on the East African community, the African Union, and the United Nations to immediately be seized of the unfolding situation in Kenya to save lives and the country. I mourn with the families that have lost loved ones and stand with them in the ongoing struggle for justice and economic liberation.
The church, as we heard earlier, James, the Catholic bishops also spoke about the need for peace. Let's just listen into that full statement now.
Sister Esther, Father Vincent Capucci, Noel, KTN, Peter, KTN, Derito Nation, NTV Wamboi, William Capuchin, Shadrach, K27,
TV 47,
TV 47, Tomboya, TV 47, Stanley, Standard, KTN, Samuel Chege, Daily Nation. And you can also introduce yourself. So welcome, and I will now hand it over to our chair, who can invite someone to lead a prayer just before the press statement. Welcome, our chair, Archbishop.
Thank you very much. We ask Bishop Peter Kamamoe, Simon Peter, to lead us in a prayer, please.
The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Our Father who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done on earth. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses,
as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Amen.
Hail Mary,
full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
God our Father, we thank you that we are here today. We pray that you continue guiding us as a church, as our nation. We pray that you restore peace in our nation. We pray for our young people and all the Kenyans. We pray that your will may be done. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Thank you very much, members of the media. We have here a statement released by the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. It is entitled, God Save Our Beloved Country, with a quotation from Matthew chapter 25, verse 40. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. The current situation that we are now witnessing calls us to address the nation and especially our dear young people. We also wish to speak clearly to our leadership, the President, the entire government, and the members of Parliament. We appeal and plead that we have a moment of reflection and listening. We are saddened that what started as lawful protests has degenerated into violent conflict. This was not the initial aim of the Gen Z protests. We earnestly appeal to the police not to shoot at the protesters. We also appeal to the young people to remain peaceful. We condole with all those who have been shot dead and others who have been injured, and plead for calm. No one should lose life. We also need to advise against unconstitutional actions like attempting to take over Parliament due to their serious consequences. Once more, we are pleading for a peaceful and meaningful engagement for the good of our nation. Number one, excessive taxation in the contentious Finance Bill 2024-2025. The Finance Bill 2024-2025 has elicited reactions, mostly of resistance from Kenyans. If adopted in its current form, it will add pain to many families who are already suffering the consequences of adopting the 2023-2024 Finance Bill that was signed into law. We, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, have recently formally raised our very serious concerns on the Finance Bill to the government. We appreciate that some major revisions were done to the draft bill, responding to the suggestions from the public participation, but still feel that some of our important suggestions were not addressed. We call upon the legislators to be guided by their conscience in addressing this bill and the good of the Kenyans. We emphasize that every citizen must pay taxes, but the government must not overtax its citizens, and it should not be in denial about its intended excessive taxation. The country is bleeding, and therefore we invite the government to reflect on this matter with the seriousness it deserves. Number two, the Gen Z on the Finance Bill. We understand, therefore, why the Gen Zs have taken to the streets to express their displeasure to the government. The young generation is alive to the negative impact punitive taxes have in their own lives. The government needs to face the plain truth that families are immensely suffering. Young people have reached a point of taking it upon themselves to express discontent with the insensitivity of the government to these unwarranted taxes that only raise higher the cost of living. The government must listen to the pain of its citizens caused by the high cost of living. Ignoring them will only escalate tensions in the country and draw young people and citizenry into despair. We plead with the President that he listens to the voices of so many and respond concretely to the current situation triggered by the proposed Finance Bill.
Number three, genuine intent to support young people. We, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, understand the desperation of the young people. We have consistently called on the government to be responsible for creating an environment in which young people can use their knowledge to create jobs, get employed, or pursue meaningful opportunities. We are yet to see a clear and well-defined roadmap for this end. The billions siphoned from taxpayer money, for example, are enough to employ thousands of youths. In the absence of tangible initiatives, young people are right in expressing their desperation. They are not getting the promised jobs. They are not seeing a government that is committed to using the taxes it collects for justifiable ends, nor are they pursuing the corrupt. They are coming out to point out the challenges of the government is therefore understandable, and we commend them for being proactive citizens. We are encouraged and must applaud you, our dear young people, for keeping away from looting and violence. We appreciate that you have generated a slogan that we are peaceful. This is a step in the right direction, as affirmed in Scripture. The Lord examines the righteous, but the wicked, those who love violence, he hates with a passion. Psalm 11, verse 5. Number 4, purpose of Gen Z protest should be respected. Even as we commend you, Gen Z, for being proactive, we would like to advise that in themselves, protests will not solve the problem of government insensitivity in addressing problems like the finance bill. With your creativity and innovative technology tools available, which you are using to organize yourself and pass your message to the government, you need to consider more innovative approaches to draw constructive engagement to address the social and economic woes our country is facing. Do not give up on pursuing direct engagement with government and other stakeholders. We also encourage patience as you engage. As Bishop, we also want to warn you, our dear young people, not to be misused for hidden interest by some of the people who may be interested to use your protests. While pursuing genuine concerns of unemployment, a bleak future, limited opportunities for self-development, and the fear of the shrinking economy, there are people out there whose interests are to capitalize on your grievances to advance their agenda. We ask you to be on guard so that you may not be misused for goals that are not part of your genuine concerns. Number 5, use of excessive force by the police. We, the Catholic bishops, while appreciating several occasions the police have tried to act rightly, decry and condemn in the strongest terms the use of force by the police.
Tangu maandamano haya yaanze, kijana Evans, kijana Rex, vijana wadogo sana. Kando na hawa bado tulikuwa tunafuatilia, hata hawajazikwa. Leo vijana wengine wameuawa na Bwana Ruto na askari wake. Leo kama wanazimio tunaungana na Wakenya wengine kusema Ruto must go, Ruto must resign, he must do the honorable thing. Sababu Wakenya kuingia pale wachukue ile the mess of parliament, authority of parliament, inamaanisha bunge hilo na serikali hii hawana imani nao tena. So let them do the honorable thing and resign. That is what we are calling upon them. Na nataka wenzangu waweze kuongelea mambo haya. Lakini pia kama waziri ambaye nimekuwa waziri wa ulinzi, nataka niombe wanajeshi wetu wasitumiwe kisiasa. Askari polisi wetu wametumiwa kisiasa, na wale waliokuwa wanasema Uhuru Kenyatta ametumia polisi kisiasa kama fimbo ya kuchapa wapinzani wake wa kisiasa. Hivi leo wale polisi ndio wametumiwa kuua vijana hawa waliokuwa wanaandamana na kutafuta haki yao. Lakini wanajeshi wetu, wawe wanajeshi wa nchi kavu, wawe wanajeshi wa hewa ama wale wa maji, Kenya ina one of the most professional militaries in the world, not in Africa. It's an institution deeply rooted in professionalism. Tuwaomba wasikubali watumike kisiasa na serikali ambayo imekataliwa na Wakenya. Serikali ambayo inaenda walinde taifa letu kulingana na majukumu yao kikatiba. Kazi yao ni kulinda mipaka yetu na kulinda maisha na mali ya Wakenya. Sio kuja waue Wakenya kisiasa vile polisi wa Kenya wametumika leo. Vile polisi wa Kenya wanatumika kwenda Haiti na mahakama imesema wasiende sababu wanaenda kinyume na katiba yetu. Hilo ndio ombi langu jioni ya leo kwa wakuu wa wanajeshi wetu. Wasikubali. Na pia wenzetu wanaosimamia vyombo vya habari, tuwajua ya kwamba kuna njama baada ya mauaji haya kuweza kuzima ama kuinterfere na upasaji wa habari internet yetu. Tuwajua wale wanahusika. Freedom of the media, freedom of expression ni haki za kikatiba. Wasidhubutu. Ruto has crossed the red line today, lakini let him not go further by interfering with the airwaves, with the freedom of the media, with the freedom of expression of Kenyans, the way our young people have done today. Hilo ndio ombi nataka ni muombe Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka aweze kupeana taarifa yetu rasmi, na ni muombe pia SG wetu Jubilee Mheshimiwa Kioni aweze kuongezea. Your Excellency,
thank you. Thank you. I had actually already read out the statement by Azimio leadership, which was further to what was issued earlier by our party leader, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. So this was additional to that. But you also taken the opportunity to lay it very clearly. Kenyans have demonstrated across the country, from Turkana to Lamu, from Kitui to Kakamega, from Makueni to Lodwar. Lodwar is in Turkana. Okay. In Garissa, the 47 counties of our republic, and all of them were unanimous. The finance bill must be withdrawn in its totality. And shockingly, their cause, clarion calls, were not heeded, resulting in a matter that has never happened in the history of this country, where symbolically the Kenyan people have withdrawn their delegated authority to Parliament by taking hold of the mace. And that actually means the sovereign power, the sovereign authority of the Kenyan people is vested in the people themselves. So this is not a matter that Kenya Kwanza and Mheshimiwa William Ruto can take lightly. They have said Ruto must go. It is not Azimio saying so. It is the people of Kenya saying Ruto must go. And so the killings we are saying must stop. And the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa has explained in some very fine detail why our military, our KDF, who have done beautifully, served with such distinction, not only in Kenya, but in places like Sierra Leone, in Mozambique. Right now, they're doing duty in Somalia from the days when we were there with President Kibaki. They should not be drawn into this local conflict. They are also our children. They all get affected. They all have payslips, which are looking very thin. And therefore, we just wanted to reiterate that point. And finally, media. media, the freedom of expression, the freedom of the press. Kenya Kwanza, we gather that the plan is they wait until 6:30, according to Kindiki, and then close down the country. This cannot happen, not in Kenya. This is a democracy, and a functioning democracy, where the will of the people must always prevail. And the majority have spoken. This is why we are saying Honorable Ruto should do the right thing, the honorable thing, resign before Sri Lanka happens here in Kenya.
All right. Correct. Mheshimiwa Kioni.
I associate myself with the comments that have been made by my colleagues. But add that
A statement there from Azimio la Umoja, Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, and earlier on we heard from the bishops, Catholic bishops, led by Bishop Muheria, and they had a statement, talked about what had happened from today, early in the day, the protest. In their characterization, the Gen Z or the youth-led protests is a wake-up call to the government that they should be listened to. The question of the Finance Bill 2024 is right at the doorstep of President William Ruto, and they have said that these are questions that need urgent resolve. You've been listening to us for a whole day, covering from all parts of the country, at least 34 out of the 47 counties, Smriti, on the questions, by and large, of this Finance Bill 2024 and the protest that has followed.
That's right. It has indeed been an historic day for Kenya and Kenyans. The 25th of June 2024 will indeed go down in history. We've been covering it from all angles. It doesn't stop here. Join our colleagues at 7 o'clock for NTV Jioni, and then at 9 p.m. for NTV Tonight with James Smart.
Well, that is for us here on June 24th or 25th?
25th.
June 25th, Tuesday 25th, about 18 minutes past 6. My name is James Smart. Thank you very much for your what is it called?
Company?
Company.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day, but it doesn't end here. Please enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is James Smart.
Thanks very much for watching. I'm Smriti Vidyarthi.
NTV, turning on your world.